The Dallas Cowboys are inching closer to the start of the regular season, but before any game is played, there's already a lot happening behind the scenes, from injuries to potential roster moves, and even some intriguing trade possibilities. Let's start with the injury updates that are shaping the early narrative for America's team. Tyler Guyton, the promising offensive lineman, is trending in the right direction, at least according to offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. His comments suggest some cautious optimism, saying Guyton is starting to show signs similar to Trayvon Diggs in his recovery path. In other words, there's hope he could be out on the practice field soon, not just stuck doing rehab work indoors. Out on the grass is the phrase Schottenheimer used, which in Cowboys speak means potentially getting back into real football activities. That's the kind of update fans have been waiting for. Still, it remains a bit of a stretch to expect Guyton in the lineup for Week 1. The original injury timeline hovered around 4 to 6 weeks, and while he's apparently doing everything right now, it's a race against time. If this were a Sunday game, maybe there'd be a shot, but considering the Cowboys opened their season with a short turnaround, there's no reason to rush him back unless he's absolutely ready. The coaching staff's tone suggests that, if not Week 1, then Week 2 becomes a very realistic target. That would still be a win for Dallas, especially considering the importance of his role. What's interesting here is how the team is treating Guyton compared to others. The messaging out of the building is positive and persistent. They've gone out of their way to defend him, support him, and speak highly of his potential. That hasn't been the case for every young player on the roster. Take Motzi Smith, for instance. Last year, Smith seemed to draw the short straw in terms of public praise. Guyton, despite his rookie ups and downs, seems to have the staff in his corner, and that says something. It's also a subtle way of the organization showing who they view as foundational pieces. And let's not forget, the Cowboys' offense is deeply reliant on having a solid offensive line. It's the spine of the entire operation. You can have all the dynamic receivers in the world, but if your offensive line crumbles, everything falls apart. Guyton was a first-round investment, and Dallas needs him to pan out, not just eventually, but as soon as possible. Without that anchor at left tackle, the team's ceiling drops considerably. But what happens if Guyton can't go for the season opener? That opens the door for Nathan Thomas, who looks like the next man up. Thomas has quietly secured that left tackle backup role, outperforming Austin Richards throughout the preseason. The rotation choices made by the coaching staff say a lot. Richards played deep into the third preseason game, while Thomas was held back, a sign that the team sees him as part of the Week 1 plan. He may not be the long-term answer, but right now, he's the guy they trust to step in. Elsewhere, there's more injury news, this time in the backfield. Jaden Blue is dealing with a low ankle sprain, but the initial word is that it's minor, and there's hope he'll be ready for the first game. That's a relief, but it also raises some small red flags. Blue hasn't had a long, physical career, limited usage in high school and college. So every injury starts to raise the question of durability. He's not expected to carry a heavy load, but the Cowboys were counting on him to at least be a change-of-pace weapon. His big play ability is one of the most valuable traits he brings, especially in a rotation where explosive speed out of the backfield can make a huge difference. Right now, the running back room feels like a three-man lock. Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, and Hunter Luepke. Everyone else is in limbo. The Cowboys might still bring in a veteran, depending on who becomes available or gets cut elsewhere. But at the very least, Blue is expected to carve out a role, even if it's just situational touches. The potential is there. He just has to stay healthy long enough to earn consistent snaps. Kalen Carson's situation, on the other hand, remains murky. The cornerback suffered a high ankle sprain, the dreaded 4 to 6 week kind, and since then, there's been nothing but radio silence. That kind of quiet often speaks volumes. No updates, no visible rehab progress, no encouraging words from coaches. That usually points to a slower recovery. It's possible Dallas places him on injured reserve to start the season, which would sideline him for the first few games. That wouldn't be ideal, but it might be the only logical move if he's nowhere near ready. The challenge with Carson is his trajectory. He started off strong last season, even looked promising in his early appearances. But then the confidence faded, the performances dipped, and eventually the shoulder injury shut him down. Now he's banged up again. If he isn't available for Week 1, the Cowboys face a decision. Keep him on the active roster and carry an injured player, or move him to IR and open up that spot for someone else. Cornerback depth could become a major issue, depending on how things shake out. Darren Bland is a lock. So is Trayvon Diggs, assuming he's fully recovered. Care Elam, Andrew Booth, both should make it. That's 4 names. After that, it's a bit of a numbers game. Izzy Mukuamu has value because of his versatility. He can play anywhere in the secondary and contributes on special teams. Then there's Kean Hall and Zion Childress, both on the bubble. If Carson isn't ready, that opens a slot, but the Cowboys have to be smart about how they allocate these final spots. And that's not even accounting for Savion Red or other fringe guys. The math is getting complicated. So what's next for the Cowboys? Trades. And not just bringing in talent, shipping guys out too. If you look closely, Dallas might be preparing to offload some depth in exchange for help at critical positions. Defensive tackle remains a weak spot. Motzie Smith hasn't lived up to the hype so far, and behind him, the options are even thinner. You can't start the year with only Tavian Sanders and Perion Winfrey holding down the middle. That's asking for disaster. If they can flip one of their backup linemen for a real nose tackle, they should absolutely do it. And they've got pieces to offer. The offensive line room is stacked, probably too stacked. Once Guyton is healthy, the starters are set. Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, and Terrence Steele. Nathan Thomas is the swing option. But behind them, you've got TJ Bass, Austin Richards, Brock Hoffman, Sadiq Charles, Hakeem Adeniji, and a Johnny Cornelius. That's a lot of depth, and you can't keep them all. Even 11 linemen would be pushing it. Most teams carry 8 or 9. Someone's getting cut or traded. Bass and Richards could bring back value, especially for teams starving for offensive line help. Hoffman, meanwhile, looks like a solid backup center and might be too valuable to let go. If the Cowboys can turn one of those guys into a capable interior defender, even if it's a rotational piece, it would go a long way towards solidifying the trenches. Then there's the defensive in-depth. The Cowboys are loaded here, to the point where some players might become trade bait. Nobody is suggesting Micah Parsons is expendable. That's absurd. But if a player like Sam Williams could net you a starting caliber interior lineman, would you at least think about it? Williams hasn't played a ton, but he's a former second-rounder, still young, and has flashed upside. If another team sees the potential and is willing to deal from a position of strength, it could be worth exploring. The Cowboys won't move Dante Fowler or Dorrance Armstrong, but Williams might be their most intriguing chip at that spot. Another name to watch, James Houston. He's had solid preseason flashes and real NFL experience. But once again, it's a numbers game. If he's on the bubble and the Cowboys fear he won't survive waivers, a trade becomes the smart move. It's always tough to let talent walk out the door for nothing. If you can get even a late-round pick or a backup at a position of need, you take it. Ultimately, this is the kind of front office moment that can define a season. The roster is talented, but there are holes that need to be filled. There's too much at stake to gamble on hope. The Cowboys have depth at premium positions, offensive line, edge rusher, and there's no reason not to use that to patch up weaker spots like nose tackle, running back, or cornerback. The team is close. They just need a few more pieces to click into place. Beyond the immediate injury updates and trade rumors, there's a broader sense that the Cowboys are walking a fine line right now between confidence and vulnerability. The roster, on paper, is good enough to compete with any team in the league. But the gaps are real, and if not addressed properly, they could derail the momentum the front office has been building. The good news is that the staff seems aware of these concerns. The question is whether they'll be aggressive enough in the final days before the regular season to actually do something about it. Depth is both a blessing and a curse in Dallas right now. The offensive line group is a perfect example. There's enough talent and youth to feel optimistic about the long-term picture. But in the short term, the team has to make some very tough calls. Guys like TJ Bass and Brock Hoffman aren't just filler names. They've proven they can play, but numbers work against them. The team simply can't carry double-digit offensive linemen into the regular season. The front office will either have to risk cutting players they like and hoping they clear waivers, or pull the trigger on trades that give them better roster balance. And again, we're not just talking about moving bodies for the sake of it. We're talking about flipping real potential into solutions for real problems. This is where Dallas finds itself in a delicate roster balance. Certain units, like the interior defensive line, are screaming for reinforcements. Motzie Smith was a first-round pick, but his development hasn't inspired the kind of confidence you'd expect from someone drafted that high. The buzz around his weight, his conditioning, and the way he's handled his preparation have left some fans wondering if he's going to make the leap at all. It's not a matter of cutting bait. Not yet. But the Cowboys absolutely need insurance at that position. Tavian Sanders and Perion Winfrey might have moments where they flash in practice or in games, but relying on them as a base defense interior duo in meaningful games is risky at best, reckless at worst. Now imagine if Dallas actually made a move for a proven run stopper, someone who could rotate in and plug up the middle while giving Motzie the time he needs to grow into his role. That would change everything. Suddenly, your defense isn't just talented, it's layered. It's built to withstand injuries and matchups. That's how you make a deep postseason run, not just with stars, but with stability at every level. The running back situation brings up similar concerns. Jaden Blue might be cleared for Week 1, but how confident can you really be? He's shown flashes, no doubt, but when a player gets banged up before the real hitting even starts, it opens up a lot of questions. It's not that the Cowboys need to panic. They've got depth options, but they do need to be smart. If Blue turns into a week-to-week question mark and Javonte Williams has to carry too much of the load, it could wear him down quickly. And if something happens to either of them, suddenly you're scraping the bottom of the depth chart. There are still free agent backs out there. There will be even more after final roster cuts around the league. This is when good front offices stay sharp. You don't always need to spend big. Sometimes, a solid veteran who can pass block and pick up 3 or 4 yards when needed is enough to hold the line. But doing nothing and hoping your young guys can shoulder the load, that's not a sustainable plan. The secondary isn't immune to scrutiny either. The injury to Kalen Carson is the latest twist in what's becoming a frustrating cycle for that unit. Trayvon Diggs is still working his way back. And while Darren Bland has been a revelation, one man can't do it all. Behind them, the depth chart is a mess of maybes. Kare Elam and Andrew Booth have talent, but that window is small. Final cuts are coming. The trade market is shifting every hour. Every GM in the league is on the phone, and the Cowboys can't afford to be passive. If they want this year to be different, if they want to finally push beyond the divisional round, finally get over the hump, finally meet the expectations that come with the star on the helmet, they need to act like it right now. They got the ammo. They've got the leverage. Now it's about execution. The Tyler Guyton situation will play out how it plays out. Same with Jaden Blue and Carson and whoever else is nursing something. But the front office doesn't need to sit around waiting for medical updates. They can make moves today that protect this roster tomorrow. That's what smart teams do. Look around the NFC. San Francisco, Philadelphia, Detroit, they're not sitting still. They're adding depth. They're making trades. They're getting better every day. The Cowboys need to keep pace. And not just with flashy moves, but with smart ones. The right waiver claim. The savvy trade. The unexpected free agent addition. That's how you build a contender. It's not about winning August. It's about being ready for January. Every decision made this week, who stays, who goes, who gets protected, who gets flipped, sets the foundation for everything that follows. And for the Cowboys, there's no more room for error. This has to be the year where all the potential finally turns into production, where all the hype turns into hardware, where all the talk becomes action. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Rumors have been swirling in the sports world following the controversial remarks by renowned commentator Joe Buck, who recently leveled sharp criticism at the Dallas Cowboys. Sources close to the situation suggest that Buck's comments were not only pointed, but also delivered with a tone of incredulity that has caught the attention of fans and analysts alike. The Cowboys, a franchise with a storied history and a fiercely loyal fan base, have often been at the center of debate regarding their performance and management decisions. But Buck's critique seems to have struck a particularly sensitive chord. While the specifics of his statements were not entirely made public, insiders indicate that Buck questioned the team's recent strategies, coaching choices, and perhaps even the motivations behind certain player acquisitions. This development has led to a ripple effect across sports media, with talk shows, podcasts, and social media channels dissecting every word, trying to gauge whether Buck's comments were based on insider knowledge, personal opinion, or a broader narrative about the team's trajectory. The Cowboys organization has not officially responded, but sources suggest internal discussions have been initiated to evaluate how this public scrutiny could impact team morale and public perception, especially as the next season approaches and expectations remain sky-high for one of the NFL's most prominent franchises. The implications of Buck's critique extend beyond simple commentary and into the realm of fan perception and media influence. Analysts speculate that such a public statement could either motivate the Cowboys to prove their detractors wrong or exacerbate existing tensions within the team, especially regarding leadership and decision-making. The timing of Buck's remarks has fueled further speculation, as it coincides with ongoing debates about the team's draft strategy, roster adjustments, and long-term competitiveness in the league. Conversations in fan forums and sports talk shows reveal a split between those who view Buck's commentary as a fair, if blunt, assessment of a team struggling to find consistency, and those who interpret it as an unnecessary attack on an iconic franchise. Betting markets and fantasy football circles have also reportedly taken note of Buck's statements, with some insiders suggesting that public sentiment may subtly influence projections and expectations for individual players. Amidst this whirlwind, sources claim that players themselves have become aware of the remarks, leading to quiet discussions within locker rooms and social media interactions where subtle defenses or reactions can be observed. The Cowboys, known for their disciplined approach in media management, may need to navigate this carefully, balancing internal morale with public messaging while ensuring that Buck's critique does not overshadow their ongoing preparations for upcoming challenges, as they aim to maintain relevance and dominance in a highly competitive league environment that prizes both talent and perception. Adding another layer of intrigue, some sources hint that Buck's critique may have been motivated by long-standing tensions with the team's ownership or prior on-air disagreements over coverage decisions. Sports insiders are abuzz with speculation about the potential personal dynamics influencing Buck's statements, suggesting that his critique could carry subtext beyond mere performance evaluation. This has prompted a cascade of discussions across multiple platforms, with commentators attempting to decode any underlying messages, subtle jabs, or historical context that might explain the intensity of his words. Among fan communities, there is already an emerging divide between those who interpret Buck's comments as a wake-up call for the franchise and those who see it as a sensationalist attack aimed at generating headlines and online engagement. Reports from unnamed insiders indicate that coaching staff and veteran players have engaged in private meetings to address potential fallout, as maintaining focus and unity has become an even higher priority. Meanwhile, the Cowboys' social media accounts have remained largely silent, fueling further speculation and giving more weight to the idea that Buck's statements are reverberating through every facet of the organization. As this story continues to unfold, many within the sports journalism community predict that further commentary, reactions from former players, and perhaps subtle signals from the team itself will continue to feed the narrative, keeping both fans and critics on edge as they analyze every move and every word in response to Buck's pointed critique. Some insiders speculate that the long-term impact of Buck's statements could extend beyond this season, shaping narratives that influence future broadcasts, fan engagement, and the broader perception of the Cowboys as an NFL powerhouse. Analysts point out that high-profile criticism from a respected commentator can create ripples that affect everything from ticket sales to merchandising, as public perception often aligns with media narratives over time. Meanwhile, there's chatter among sports strategists about the psychological effect on players, particularly younger athletes, who may feel the weight of national scrutiny amplified by Buck's remarks. Rumors suggest that internal messaging within the team emphasizes resilience, collective focus, and the importance of not letting external commentary disrupt their preparation and game day execution. Yet the persistent discussion in sports football commentary. Despite the intense speculation surrounding Bucs critique, the Dallas Cowboys appear determined to focus on their core objectives while navigating the external pressures created by high-profile commentary. Sources suggest that internal leadership is keenly aware of the potential distractions and is actively working to cultivate a culture of resilience, emphasizing performance over public opinion. There is also talk among insiders that the team may strategically engage with the media to reclaim the narrative, issuing statements or conducting interviews that subtly counteract negative impressions without escalating conflict. Meanwhile, sports analysts continue to dissect Bucs' remarks, debating their accuracy, tone, and potential consequences, which has led a heightened attention to every decision made by the Cowboys front office, coaching staff, and players. Some insiders even speculate that Bucs' critique could inadvertently motivate the team, fueling a desire to demonstrate their capabilities on the field and silence detractors with strong performance. Fans, meanwhile, remain divided, with some rallying behind the team in defiance of criticism, while others scrutinize each development through the lens of Bucs commentary. As this narrative continues to develop, it becomes clear that the interplay between media influence, fan perception, and organizational response creates a dynamic environment in which every statement, rumor, and decision carries amplified significance, underscoring the high stakes of professional sport commentary and the enduring fascination surrounding one of the NFL's most closely watched franchises. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.